We're back live at ISTE 2015. I'm here with Michael and Mary Jo from EdSurge. How are you guys?
Hey,
we're wonderful.
Hi, Jeff.
Tell us a little bit about what EdSurge is doing here at ISTE.
Yeah, so EdSurge is a news and information site for all things edtech. We're founded by journalist Betsy Corcoran, who worked for Forbes, worked for Scientific American, got tired of the journalism game and worked as a CTO in her son's school for a year, and was really dismayed, even in the heart of Silicon Valley where she lived, the challenges she was seeing teachers and administrators and students have with edtech. So she founded a news site, and that was about 4 years ago. Since then, we've been reporting on the news, putting out a newsletter every week for 4 years, and doing lots of other things now as well.
Yep.
And what were some of the problems that she was finding in edtech?
Big problem was that she still talks about all the time was probably the lack of teacher voice and implementation of educational technology. And even in the creation of tools themselves. I think that's part of the reason why she created EdSurge to be a bridge between the entrepreneur audience and the educator audience, was because she felt like the two audiences were so directly intertwined through the products, but they weren't actually talking to each other and offering any feedback mechanisms. And that's sort of how EdSurge came to be.
And what kind of feedback do you offer?
So we have a number of mechanisms for feedback. I would say the biggest one that I think Michael and I are always super jazzed about is our summits. We host summits all over the country, and essentially what we do is we bring together approximately 30 companies, usually in sort of still early stages, haven't gotten a lot of funding or still iterating on the product, and then we bring anywhere between 400 and 800 educators from the area. And so what happens is that the companies bring their product, no gimmicks, no freebies, none of that. The teachers come and they offer feedback, and there's an incentivization process for the teachers to do that. But then we collect the feedback, and the feedback gets both given to the entrepreneurs so they can make the product better, and actually gets posted on our website, on our index. And Michael actually can talk a little bit more about the index and sort of how that works.
Yeah, so that's a great summary of the summits. The other thing we're doing is our index. So it's our encyclopedia of edtech products. We've got over 1,500 products on there. The goal is to provide a place where any teacher, any administrator, or even an entrepreneur can come and take a look at all of the products that exist for one type of set of products. So if you want, go ahead.
And what are you finding that teachers are asking for in these products?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's the $1 million question.
Yep.
Literally.
It's the one we're trying to figure out
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of things I feel like they're looking for, but the biggest things are, obviously they want, the correct grade level and subject matter. That's, I think, the problem with a lot of products, is that they start with one very small group and teachers really want more. They want something that's very, very easy to set up. It would be nice to be able to walk in on the first day of school in the new fall school year and have something that could be literally set up in about 30 minutes, or even less time than that. That's a big thing. A very simplified user interface is something that teachers always appreciate. And also something that is free.
Free is a good word.
Yeah, free is a huge word. I mean, you probably heard all the time.
It's interesting seeing everybody here at ISTE, and there are people that are out there trying to sell things for free, and they can't do it. And there's people that are selling things for $100, and they're doing amazing. And it really comes down to, will the teacher be able to implement it quickly? And sometimes there is no cost price point when ease of use and student engagement are involved.
Right.
Yep.
I think Class Dojo is a huge example for that.
Class Dojo is amazing. We met them 3 years ago at our first ISTE. 4 years ago. My God, it was 4 years ago at our first ISTE.
Crazy.
And
You're a veteran, Jeff.
Yeah.
you have these guys that just really wanted to change the world. And they did, or they are. And they have these really cool cartoon characters.
That always helps, yeah.
Yes.
The little avatar icons.
Maybe that's what EdSurge needs. We need more.
We need
cartoon
avatars and
characters.
icons.
I have 3 of them that if you want, I can rent out the Edu triplets.
Ooh, that's right. We just heard about that. That's fantastic, I got to admit. Yeah.
They're doing really well.
The Edu triplets.
So
That's
you
great.
asked, just to finish that question. So you asked about what teachers are wanting, but part of our work is also what administrators want.
Yeah.
And administrators.
Does that matter?
That's a good question. I mean, there seem to be somewhat different desires between the two of them sometimes.
Yeah, I think for better or for worse, it does matter sometimes.
Yeah.
You were about to say something.
Well, I've heard the term this week, decision maker. And I think it's being labeled on the wrong person. You say the word decision maker as the principal. Isn't the decision maker the student?
I mean, that's a great point. I think the problem with the word decision maker is that it's a question of at what point in the purchasing process are the decisions made. Is the decision maker the person who decides if they want to stick with a product after it's already been purchased, or the person who makes that initial decision to purchase it? I think a great example that we recently wrote about is ST Math. ST Math is very popular in classrooms now, but they've been losing some of their contracts because of the fact that administrators are really frustrated with their data dashboard and some of the administrator-facing attributes. So, it's kind of a question of at what process does the term decision maker become applicable in the life of a product?
What is that point?
I think it really depends on the product and the problem that you're trying to solve. With something like ST Math, I saw when I was talking to a lot of administrators and teachers, the teachers love the product, the students love the product, but the administrators ended up getting rid of it because it was just too cumbersome for them. And at the end of the day, you asked what is popular now, the analysis of data obviously has become huge. Because it was so difficult for them to analyze the data and draw it out from the program, the administrators felt like it's a great program, but it can't give us what we want at the end of the day. So,
and it's a good point too, Jeff, because it gets to another piece that is at the heart of EdSurge, which is kind of demystifying those relationships between, or demystifying the communication between companies and educators. So if you talk to a company, and a company is using the word decision maker, 100% of the time, that means the payer of the product.
Right.
That's what companies mean by that.
Right.
But you're right that in the classroom or in a school setting, decision maker can mean a lot of different things. It's not always clear for a given product who gets to make the ultimate decision about whether the product gets used.
Well, let's flip the question. We just talked a little bit about what do teachers and stuff want from edtech companies.
Right.
The question that we're trying to figure out here at TeacherCast is what can companies do to better communicate their message with teachers?
So I think number one, it starts with having teachers on board in the process of developing products. When you have teachers that are from day one or very early on in the process communicating what it is that educators want out of a product and communicating how educators think through a problem and how they might actually use the product in the classroom.
Right.
What I've seen is that the companies that do that have sort of that teacher DNA inside their product, and it really makes them better at communicating their ideas and the benefits of their product to the wider education world.
Now, do you see a difference between the edtech vendor who is a teacher, was a teacher? I always hate saying was a teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Once a teacher, always a teacher.
Right.
Versus I'm a binary thinking coder who I just happened to come up with an edtech product, and there's a difference. Right?
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about that because before you even said that, I said, let's go one step earlier and say one of the co-founders has to be a former teacher. I mean, so I look at a company like Illuminate Education, which is an SIS out of California, and their CEO is a former teacher. He taught for 20 years in the Southern California education system. He hires half of his staff as educators, and so I can tell because of the fact that they're the ones that are on the ground training teachers how to use the product, that the product is spreading faster because they speak in a language that is familiar with educators. So I think, personally, I would want that for every edtech company. I would want every edtech company to have at least 50% of its staff be educators because they understand how to implement the products better than I think someone who doesn't have a teaching background at all. And they understand the limitations in the classroom because of, management, struggling with sometimes students that are coming from varying levels of performance or socioeconomic status. I mean, they get things that you can't understand without having taught in the classroom. But that is my bias, because I also used to be a teacher. So, I believe you were a teacher as well.
I am a teacher.
You are a teacher, that's right, yes.
I'm moving out of a smaller classroom, and now my classroom is a district. And in many cases, as we are, our classrooms are our listeners.
So let me ask you, do you think then do you trust companies inherently more if they have more teachers on staff than others?
That's a tough question because of what we do. We kind of have the inside track to a lot of the companies.
That's true.
So it's a different point of view on all of that stuff. If I'm Mary Smith kindergarten teacher and I see two products, I don't have that background of however many teachers that they have. I just go, does it work for me?
Okay.
And that's the way I tend to look at things is this going to work for me? With all of the wonderful connections that we have, it is nice to talk to companies that are teacher forward, teacher centric. I think we need to focus on the fact that, okay, you might not be a teacher, but you were a student. And are you trying to create a problem to solve, create a solution to solve a problem that you had as a student that you wanted to solve?
Yep.
Or are you trying to make a buck by finding the niche and running to it?
Right.
And there's a corporate way of looking at it, there's an educational way of looking at it.
Right.
And we can name 5 or 6 great things off the top of our head of that company gets it. That company is looking for the problem and is absolutely getting it. I'll tell you, one of my favorite companies that is absolutely getting it is Remind.
Oh, yeah.
Remind is, and again, we've seen them for the last 4 years. The growth of that is amazing because they're teacher-centric. They're
That's true.
teacher-focused. When the teachers come up and say, we want something, done.
So I agree with both of you that the education-centric view is the one that these companies have to have. I think the challenge that some former teacher-run companies have is lack of business acumen, and where that hurts teachers is in the sustainability of a product. So I've seen, I think there's lots of examples of products out there that are founded by teachers. They have a real need, they have a vision, it's an important need that they're solving in the classroom, but they just don't have the experience or the people on the team to really help them, get through a sales cycle or make sure that the product is going to be around for a while.
And
so you definitely have to have a balance.
Yeah.
Teachers don't have the business sense. Business people don't have the teacher sense. When you're in the middle, you're neither you're neither up nor down, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's why it's really, really important. As you said, your co-founder must be.
Yeah.
Or you must have all those different components to make that thing sustain. We can all think about the latest and greatest that was out last year, not around this year.
Who are we talking about specifically?
Well, we're recording right now.
I think I know who you're talking about, but we don't have to say that on camera.
And it's a really, really important that as an ed tech company, we do reach out and we ask those questions.
Absolutely.
We provide that social media.
Right.
We don't forget, no matter what seed money you have, however many big, you're still just one of a million tools that some kindergarten teacher wants to use.
Absolutely. And you were talking on the way over here about Google's feedback program. Talk a little bit about that.
So
fantastic.
I gotta say, I credit Google with for being such a huge company with so much money, even if it's not coming out of the education specific streamline, they have billions of dollars. Google has done a really good job of staying on teacher feedback for the Google Classroom platform. They've been doing it for the last
Jen
year.
Is awesome.
Yeah.
If you're out there, Jen is awesome.
The whole team, you guys are all on it. There's a little feedback button on the Classroom site. And, I asked them yesterday, I said, how many pieces of feedback do you get a day? And they said, hundreds, easy. But they read every single piece. And you can tell because they've been making these very teacher-facing updates over the last year or two, every couple of months. Even just recently this month with the release of the Classroom API to sort of help administrators with integrating the platform into their existing ecosystem in the school. Classroom does seem to listen and really appreciate the users and the feedback they give, and that is something that I don't think all companies necessarily inherently get.
And the nice part about what they're doing, and as a trainer, teacher, you do have the access to the people that work with these things, and I have had Jen on this show, which is fantastic. But they are upfront with, and not just Google, but other companies. Okay, this is a great feature request idea. It's on the pipeline, which sometimes means thanks. But most of the time, especially with Google, here's the limitations that we have. We want our product to be cross-platform and this, and this. We want to do that too, but if we do that, it's going to sacrifice user experience over here.
Right.
And then you go, oh, makes sense.
Yep.
And that's a great example of something that all ed tech companies should be doing, whether they are Google sized or whether they started in Imagine K12 this year. It's all about if you get teachers engaged, if you get them giving that feedback, you've got to give something back too. You've got to say that you're listening and say that you're working or not working on these things.
You have to own your successes. You have to own your mistakes.
Right.
And you have to be upfront. And a teacher can say it's okay. This button didn't work on your update. thank you for correcting it.
Right.
I love when I'm getting all the app updates and it says, sorry, we broke this, it is fixed now. Because you know someone's not coming at this from a corporate point of view, they're coming at it from a human point of view.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is really, really cool.
I respect companies so much more when I have an issue on their account or on their platform and I go on Twitter and I tweet at them and literally within 5 minutes I've got a response. I mean, as a user, it feels like they've got my back.
Yeah.
And there's an inherent trust there that gets established that's hard to kind of break when I see that relationship happening.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So let's wrap up here, but let me ask you, what will we be talking about in Denver next year? What do you see the next year going on here?
I think one of the things we'll be talking about next year is privacy. We're hearing more and more about this data privacy conversation. I've talked to a lot of both educators and entrepreneurs kind of in the hallways about where they see privacy going, whether there are some districts, Cambridge Public Schools is a good example of one that we know, that are really taking a more centralized approach to privacy around their tools. Basically, teachers are not allowed to use technology unless it's approved by the district and their privacy policy first. And we've heard anecdotally a couple other districts are moving that way as well. I think next year we'll be talking a lot about that and what is the right amount of teacher voice to have in that privacy discussion. I think my opinion is the right amount is that the teachers should be all over that. The teacher voice should absolutely be a large part, and they should be in those discussions with districts about the privacy debate. But I think we'll be talking about that next year too. What do you think?
I'm going to clarify that a little bit. I think people have been talking about privacy this year, but I think next year it's going to be more about, okay, so we were nervous about it last year. Here are the best practices we've been working on for the last year. Let's do some district exchange and talk about what each of us are doing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, I feel like the last year or two, there's been such a heinous debate around devices. Do you use Chromebooks? Do you use iPads? I think that's going to slowly start to dissipate in the wake of talking more about software. It seems to me like the device debate hasn't been as existent this year because I think people are realizing that it just really depends on whatever environment you're in. You choose what works best for your kids.
I think it's also, these are the devices that my boss has told me I'm using.
That's also true. I mean, so there's a difference between what I think will become popular at ISTE and what I hope becomes popular at ISTE.
Well, that's the next question.
Yeah.
What do you want to see happen in the next year? What do you want to see as the emerging technology? What's interesting you?
Truthfully, I want to see districts. I want to see them developing more of their in-house products. I really do. I know
meaning
that's
their teachers, meaning their students, or meaning
anyone on staff. Whether they hire engineers to come in and do it, or whether they have teachers who are literally working with district officials to create best products in-house. I can't begin to explain enough how much I believe that if a district has the right people with the computer science background to be able to develop their own products, they can create some killer stuff. Yeah, so I mean that's my dream. I don't know if it'll happen.
You know what? Honestly, we can sit here for the next 45 minutes, and I hope that we do some time. Please come on the show.
Love to do it.
I'm sitting here going, this is a great panel discussion. Guys, where can we find out more information about the great stuff you're having at EdSurge?
EdSurge.com.
EdSurge.com. Yeah, subscribe to our newsletters. We've got summits coming up all over the U.S. and in Toronto this year. Please come join us there. And best way is just to read an article, share it with a friend.
That's right.
Love to have you on the site. We've got a lot of great resources for you.
And we recommend people keep calm and read EdSurge. You can see it on the T-shirt. Yep, absolutely.
We'll be back more. TeacherCast Live from ISTE 2015.
Thanks, Jeff.